Let's just start.
So I know that y'all would not believe this unless I showed proof and y'all actually saw it for your own eyes. So today there was an earthquake in Greece, and then you felt it in parts of Turkey and in Egypt. And it was a magnitude 6.0. You got to see it to believe it, right? But the craziest thing about this is that in the skies in Greece, after this earthquake happened, this is what appeared in the sky. I want you to look really closely because this is the same picture from a different angle. What does that look like? An angel appeared in the sky after this earthquake. A large angel, by the way. Look at that. And it's not a silhouette of nothing. It's it looks like a being with light. No clouds. It's not the sun that's doing it. It's a being. Clearly an angel, a very large one at that. So what's going on in our world today is the craziest thing that we've ever seen, because the veil is thinning and Jesus is coming. We are getting to a point to where, like, to be completely honest with y'all, dude, like, none of what's happening in life makes sense to what life was like before a certain point. Like, we are literally heading towards Armageddon. We are truly heading towards the end of the world. And I would have never, like, growing up, thought that the world would be how it is today. And everyone is seeing it on the world stage. This is crazy. And prayers to anyone who was affected, lives lost. I don't think there was any lives lost or any casualties, but any property damage and things like that, because this is insane. An angel appeared after an earthquake. And then all the other signs has been happening, bro. Like, slow down.
I'm sure most are aware that this building is the Pentagon. What I'm sure most aren't aware of is the two symbols in relation to each other that coincidentally fit. Looking at the building from above and the entrance up top, an Eastern Star fits perfectly. A star takes mathematical precision as is, and then the center is identical as well. And then if you were to rotate the building to where the entrance is on bottom, this symbol fits. Simply by making straight lines, using the corners and entrance as reference points. These are both just coincidences, of course. While we're in the neighborhood of this topic, ever wonder why the Marines go by devil dogs? Why not angel dogs? Or why dogs in general? And why is devil dog spelled backwards? God lived. And why do they say ooh-rah? And in the army, they say hoorah. Because hoorah is the sun god with the serpent on its head, who we often see references to throughout symbolism. And then in the Navy, they say hoo-yah. Hoo-yah sounds a lot like mocking God. How many are aware that this is a thing? And many believe, including in Native American folklore, that the wisdom teeth is associated with personal growth and spiritual development. If that were true, removing them would likely make a person easier to control.
If you look at the group of people who meet through the BIS,
what's that?
The BIS is the Bank of International Settlements, and it's the central bank of central banks.
Where is that located?
It's in Basel, Switzerland, and it has 63 of the most powerful central banks as its members, and the New York Fed and the Fed are both shareholders. They became shareholders in 1994.
In one sentence, what's the purpose of the Bank of International Settlements?
Okay, so there are two things you need to know about the Bank of International Settlements.
I'm not sure my brain's big enough for this, but keep going.
It is.
Okay.
It has sovereign immunity.
What does that mean?
It's above the law.
It's its own country.
Right. It's its own country. It has its own police force. And essentially, other than one of its staff being in a car accident or, minor things, no one has the legal authority to move against it. Okay? And it's sovereign immunity. That's number one. Number two, it can move money and hold it on its on its balance sheet and manage money secretly. So if I want to, I'm grossly oversimplifying, if I want to steal 21 trillion from the U.S. government and park it on the balance sheet of the BIS, it can move it anywhere in the world and it can keep it on its balance sheet secretly.
Why would there be an organization? But first of all, where does its power? Like, who empowered it to have sovereign immunity in the right?
It was created after World War I and sort of collected its powers and got going in the 30s. And it was created in theory to manage the reparations of the German government. But if you read the real history, it was because the Bank of England and the central bankers wanted an entity that had sovereign immunity. They wanted to be able to move money secretly. So, for example, if you look at what happened during World War II and all the money that was moving back and forth between the Germans and Americans, you know, Dulles was over in Switzerland helping to manage all these transfers back and forth. So there's a wonderful book called The Tower of Basel by a wonderful Hungarian journalist where he documents and describes the whole history of the Bank of International Settlements. And if you want to understand power in this world, understanding how the Bank of International Settlements and the plumbing of the central banking system works is very, very important.
Had a mock exorcism performed on her and later claimed that she did it to prove that the demon that possesses her, which she calls Roman, is too powerful to be cast out. Katy Perry performed Dark Horse with a performance of what appeared to be a witch's Sabbath with Satan and demons glorifying her. Madonna came out with all kinds of devil-horned demons appearing to worship her.
The aging pop star had recently done a photo shoot in which she portrayed herself as Jesus in a display that mocked Jesus' Last Supper. In the unholy song that was performed at the Grammys, it tells of a husband and father stepping out of the bounds of the marriage covenant. They sing, seductive display of half-naked worshippers bowed down to Smith in a top hat with devil horns. Flames marked much of the performance as his co-star was kept in a cage.
So first they try to lock you up. If they can't lock you up, they try to get you on tax evasion. If they can't get you on tax evasion, they try to get you on some type of scandal with a woman. They can't get you on scandal with a woman because you do too disciplined. They try to call gay allegations. They can't get you on a homosexual allegation, they kill you. Look, they've been running the same playbook since the beginning of time.
One time this person asked me, where do you think our thoughts come from? And I laughed. I'm like, what do you mean? Like us? Like what? And he's like, no. Where do you think our thoughts come from? And I was like, I really sat back and thought about that. And I was like, you know what? Where do our thoughts come from? And then I realized our thoughts are not even ours. These thoughts that we have are not our thoughts, and we let them rule our lives. So that's what I realized, is that I had been living my whole life like as a lie, and that's where the spiritual awakening came. It came from realizing I was not my thoughts, and just from that simple sentence that bro told me, where do you think our thoughts come from? It triggered a whole awakening within me where my like higher self connected, and I was like, yo, I'm not my thoughts, I'm watching my thoughts.
Never reach out to people that's in your past. You know why? Because as soon as you link back up with them, they're going to show you every reason why you cut their ass off. Even though you miss a person, you got to sometimes just leave people where they at.
Bro, what did Pope Leo just do to the world? This weekend, the Pope delivered his very first address in which he appealed to the world's powerful and praying for the miracle of global peace. And then, on Monday, we wake up to the news that India and Pakistan have pulled back from the brink of war and agreed to a ceasefire. The United States and China met in Switzerland and finally agreed to a deal, and both of them will now reduce their tariffs by 114%. The Kurdish military group PKK announced plans to disarm and dissolve after 40 years of fighting with Turkey, which has ended the lives of over 40,000 people. The United States met with Iran and both committed to finding ways to address their differences. And then finally, a number of European leaders gathered in Ukraine to deliver Russia an ultimatum: agree to an unconditional 30-day ceasefire or face massive new sanctions. And then, last night, for the first time in years, Putin has offered to meet Zelensky face-to-face this week in Turkey, an offer that Trump urged Zelensky to immediately accept. All of that one weekend. So the question is, was the Pope poping, or would this all have happened regardless?
What happens, do you think, if you follow women's advice to your tribe?
Everything will fail.
Everything will fail.
Since women thinking by failings, you know?
E ao mesmo tempo nós não vamos parar por aí. Já estão encomendados. Dentro de uma pastilha.
Just a minute, please.
Para eliminar Chega. É muito. Já estão.
We'll be right back.
That's better. Never be ashamed of who you are. You're warriors. Be proud. So what if the federal government scatters your people to the wind? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Showtime. É muito. Já estão.
There's a Chinese proverb in Cantonese that says 和氣生財, which means peace grows wealth. And this is so true and so in line with what I noticed and learned, which is peace and boring attracts abundance. Chaos and drama repels it. Think about that.
When God doesn't want you to be around someone, He allows that person to betray you. He allows that person to hurt you or do whatever, to just so you can cut them off. Because where God is taking you, that He's not taking them to. Okay? You can't drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. Okay? So those who are not walking with God, God will remove them out of your life. Okay? Now, of course, God could bring you to someone who's not walking with God just so you to be a light, you to be the beacon of light, you being the chosen one, just so people could see by your example and start wanting to live right too as well. So that's why I said, guys, discernment is key. Being able to discern what God's will is in your life.
Subscribe.